Hey everybody, Nick Marzock with Full Compass. Okay, here's the dilemma. Let's say you're a podcaster or live streamer, VO artist. Doesn't this look familiar? Maybe a singer-songwriter. You're a professional, someone who uses your voice professionally. Well, the nature of being a professional is that sometimes you have to be on the road or on the go, and you might have to record an episode or an interview or something in a very inconvenient location, like a hotel room. The struggle is real. We obviously need tools that aren't gonna take up a lot of room, that can travel with us, that are plug and play, but ultimately sound great. Enter Steinberg. No, Nick, that's the software company that makes Cubase and Nuendo and Wavelab and hardware. This is the IXO12 Podcast Pack from Steinberg, available at Full Compass. Ultra portable, high quality, highly functional, and at a price that you are not going to believe. Stick around, this is Full Review. And does that come with fries? Can it come with fries? There's so much reflection in here. Parallel walls. So let's talk really quickly about Steinberg. This is a company with software in their DNA. Their software is software. Started in 1984 by Carl Steinberg and Manfred Rurup. I know I'm getting that name wrong.
You must have gotten the name wrong.
Steinberg. My German's not quite polished. They were super into MIDI technology and developed MIDI sequencers for computers at that time, including Cubase in 1989, which would lead to the release of Cubase Audio in 92, eventually evolving into the Cubase DAW that we all know. Because of the evolution of Cubase, Steinberg is also behind some of the protocols that we honestly take for granted just because they're industry standard. It feels like they've always been there, but they haven't. For instance, VST, which if you're into recording, you're familiar with third-party plugins and virtual instruments being able to be used on your session in your DAW. Thank you, Steinberg. ACO, which allows, ACO, which allows sound cards to communicate with software at really low latency. Dankeschön, Steinberg. This is a company at the forefront of audio production innovation. Well, now Steinberg, getting a little cocky, got into the audio interface game. I mean, they already have this long history of making MIDI interfaces. So with Yamaha, who is the parent company, with their expertise in making hardware and Steinberg's expertise of making software that integrates with hardware, it's a no-brainer to get into this game. And the condenser microphone game, and the pop filter game, and the desktop stand game, all the games that are in this bundle. They've previously introduced the UR series of interfaces, which is now a whole product family of many variations and connection types and such. This one is different. This is the IXO series. While the UR series interfaces are rugged and they have a thick metal chassis and designed for studio use and all kinds of different applications, the IXO is a lighter metal chassis with durable plastic front and back plates and the underside. It's a more mobile, more nimble interface that's not gonna get flagged by airport security. Hopefully.
TSA always does.
And it has a great size, just over 6 inches, I guess that's wide, by 4 inches by under 2 inches. This is the ultimate backpack-friendly interface. You have enough going on in there. You don't need this taking up more room. Incredibly portable, incredibly easy to use, and it can run on bus power from your computer. So you don't need a separate power supply to turn it on and phantom power your mic. But it does have that option if you're gonna use a mobile source like an iPad or your phone. So it's also incredibly versatile. And for its size, it packs a heck of a punch. So let's start with the interface. And I guess I already did. That's all I'm talking about right now. But this review is really like a bunch of reviews in one because there's a lot to this bundle. So I have here the IXO12, the 12 indicating 1 preamp and 2 in, 2 out, 2 inputs, 2 outputs. You know what in, out means. There's also the bigger sibling of this interface, the IXO22, which adds a preamp, so now you have 2 preamps, and there's some extra knobs and buttons and functions. But aside from that, its size, its specs, everything is identical between the two. So let's take a lap around this interface, show the lights, the knobs, the connections. Since I'm already using it and it's plugged in and receiving the computer bus power, the first thing you would notice is this ring light around the volume output knob. If there's a problem with the connection, that ring light will flash, indicating that you have 10 seconds to get out of the building. I'm kidding. Just check on the connections, basically. Okay, so starting on the left side is the combo XLR and line input on channel 1. If you're using a microphone like this condenser that needs phantom power, that button is right here, and when you press it, it sends the power and it illuminates, so the button is also your indicator. The mic gain knob is right beside the input, and just a quick note, the knobs are really nice feeling. They have good resistance, it feels really smooth. Also the buttons, there's just a nice pushback. And here's something that not all interfaces have that's really handy, and I don't know why they don't all have it. A mute switch. Imagine that. If you're doing a live stream or you're on a live podcast, even a Zoom call, and you have to sneeze or somebody bursts into the room yelling something, you can mute the channel without having to go into any software and click through or find the mute button on the video call. It's a hardware-based system, and I didn't realize how much I missed a mute button until I had one. They supply it right there on the hardware. So convenient. Great job, Steinberg. There's also this tiny little indicator light above the channel input that shows you your signal and if the channel is clipping. So right now you can see as I'm talking, the light it's facing away from me, but I'm gonna guess that it's showing green, which basically means your audio is somewhere between minus 20 decibels and minus 3 decibels. If I stop talking, it's a miracle. The light turns off, and if I gain it way too hard and I'm screaming into it, sorry. If you get above minus 3 dB and you start clipping, that light will flash red and that will tell you to gain it down. Next to the preamp input is the channel 2 input for high impedance sources like a guitar or a bass, and that has its own mute switch as well. I guess if you know you're just gonna bomb the guitar solo, you could just mute it and blame the internet. That channel also has a gain knob beside the input as well as a signal indicator light to show if you're clipping. Okay, a couple of quick notes about the IXO12, not shown here, but in this B-roll. There's an additional combo input going into another preamp on channel 2. So that one channel could either be an XLR mic going into the preamp, a line level instrument, or a high impedance input, all of which could be muted. It's such a simple thing. It's great. And depending on what's plugged in, the interface will automatically source that as the input. This big knob on the right controls the output level. So on the IXO12, the headphone output and the lines out left and right share that same level. On the IXO22, the headphone has its own separate output level, so they can be controlled independently. The headphone output is right here on both. And then finally, there's this switch that does direct monitoring control, so if you want to listen to your input sources with no latency, and it also controls loopback. It toggles on and off loopback. So if you're live streaming or you have a podcast and you're taking calls and you want to send the computer audio into the interface into your DAW, you can use the loopback function. So this switch will control both of those. You press it once to turn on direct monitoring, press it again to turn on loopback, and press it a third time to have direct monitoring and loopback. You can take calls with this for podcasts, set up soundboards. Do people take calls or use soundboards anymore? They did in my day. On the 22, this button will also toggle between mono and stereo direct monitoring if you're using a stereo input source. You can then just hold the monitoring button for 1 second to toggle on and off loopback without messing with your input settings. They thought of everything at Steinberg. Okay, let's flip over to the back. USB-C port, so that's where you plug in the USB-C to USB 2 cable that comes with the pack. And then right next to it is an additional port for a power bank or a smartphone charger if you're gonna be using this with a mobile device that doesn't provide enough power to the interface. Steinberg tells you connectivity instructions online, so check out the manual there, and also check your phone's compatibility just to make sure it can do this. Then finally, the left and right outputs for your studio monitors or external equipment or whatever you're doing. The thing I love about this interface, it's meat and potatoes, you know? But with a flourish. It's like meat and potatoes with killer software. It's giving you the basic connectivity and functionality to make a live stream or a podcast or voiceover session or songwriting session work, with a huge emphasis on the quality of your sound in a compact on-the-go size. And I can also speak to the Mac side of it. It was plug and play. As soon as I plugged it in, my computer recognized it as an audio source. I just went into the settings and selected it. On Windows, you might have to download a driver, but it really is built for just on the go, not interrupting your workflow. Okay, I mentioned sound. This thing is supposed to capture and convert sound, so let's talk about the sound. Because with the new IXO series comes the new and improved IXO preamps that are high performance, which are so impressive, especially for a unit that runs off of computer bus power. These are ultra low noise pre's with a self noise around minus 130 decibels A-weighted, and they deliver a lot of gain with virtually no distortion, 106 decibel dynamic range. So even the quieter mics like an SM7B can be used without a cloud lifter. You're going to be able to crank up the gain and not get that self noise hiss underneath. So impressive. The response of the input is totally flat across the frequency spectrum, which is exactly what you want in an interface, even at a low mic gain. They really put a lot of research and time into maximizing the performance of the preamps in the IXO series. It's going to give you a transparent sound, capture the details in the sibilants and the richness of the lows and the mids with a big dynamic range. That's the whole ballgame. Speaking of quality and fidelity, this interface is capable of a sampling resolution of 192 kilohertz with 24-bit resolution. Any application I can think of somebody using this interface, whether it's podcasting or voice auditions, live streaming, an interface for your home computer, that is beyond the capability of what you need, but it can do it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the connectivity is seamless. It's not going to interrupt your workflow. With iOS devices, it will switch to class compliant mode and just work with your Mac or your iPhone or iPad, but it also supports ACO, Core Audio, and WDM standards. It works on ARM, and you can go to the Steinberg website to download the drivers that meet your requirements. Also, a quick note from the aesthetic perspective. If you were to buy an IXO interface without the bundle, just by itself, it also comes in a really cool white. But this video is about the bundle, so let's keep it on the bundle. Also included in the pack is this microphone. What is this microphone, you might ask? Good question. The STM01 condenser microphone by Steinberg. This mic is going to respond just like the YCM01 condenser microphone by Yamaha, right? Because they, It's another portability dream. It's just about 6 inches tall. It's incredibly light. And keeping with the theme of this whole pack, it's a workhorse that is simple and it sounds great. There's not much really out there on this microphone, so let me give you the introduction. This is a side address condenser microphone. It has a pretty remarkably flat frequency response from 30 hertz in the lows to 20 kilohertz in the highs with a notched boost to capture a little bit more of that airy sibilance way up there. But besides that, it's really gonna give you an honest depiction of your voice or of the sound source if you record an acoustic or something with this as well. But with just a little boost in the highs to capture some more detail. That combined with the flat response of the interface input, it's going to be very transparent. This is how your voice sounds, which is what you want for podcasts, for voiceover. And this is in fact the podcast pack. On the front, there's a blue indicator light that shows that the microphone is powered on by the phantom power, and you are all set. It is really, really easy, especially on the go. Then finally, the accessories. We have to accessorize. The mic screws into this mic mount, which is really easily adjustable. The knobs feel great. It's really sturdy. That mic's not going anywhere when I lock it in. And it's held up by this tiny desktop stand that is so easily travelable. Very brief assembly required just to affix the legs to the shaft of the stand whenever you get it out of the box. A really handy mobile setup that takes up an incredibly small footprint. Like, look at this. That's it. That's all it's taking up on the desk. And attached to the stand is this really rugged, awesome branded Steinberg pop screen to keep the plosives out of your tracks. And then of course, none of this works without the cabling. So we have this ultra low noise XLR cable going from the mic to the interface, and then the included USB-C to USB 2 cable to get it from the interface to your computer. And then because it's Steinberg, what's Steinberg gonna do? They're gonna give you software. The IXO12 Podcast Pack comes with downloads for Wavelab Cast, a super easy tool for editing your audio for social media or podcasts, voiceover auditions. You can use tools for EQ, compression, the exciter tool to make your voice exciting, and then advanced functions like getting rid of background noise, like from an air conditioner in a hotel room. You also get complimentary downloads of Cubase's LE, which puts a DAW on your iPhone or iPad for easy recording and editing on the go, and Cubase AI. AI in this case standing for Advanced Integration, so it's not gonna take over the humans. Yet. I'm watching you, Cubase. Cubase AI is a simpler, more elements-based version of Cubase Pro for basic editing, recording, and mixing. But wait, there's more! Steinberg is also giving you a download for Steinberg Plus, a great selection of VST instruments and loops, Halion Sonic, Groove Agent SE, and more, and libraries of loops for all types of genres. Okay, here's the kicker. All of this, all of it, the interface, the microphone, the cables, the stand, the pop screen, the software, all of that is available at Full Compass for a MAP price of $249.99. This whole bundle is $250. I can't emphasize enough how versatile and handy this pack is. This whole thing took me like 2 minutes to put together and get going with recording. So if you have a podcast or you're a voice artist, always on the go, you do live streams, interviews over the internet, whatever the application, this is a great solution. Let this be your nudge, your wake-up call, if I can use a hotel room pun, to get your podcast going or start your voiceover career. Whatever it is, go to fullcompass.com or call your sales rep at 800-356-5844 to get your IXO12 Podcast Pack by Steinberg. As always, I'm Nick Marzock with Full Compass. Keep it right here at Full Compass for more interviews, gear reviews, and so much more great content curated for you, the podcaster, the singer-songwriter, the voiceover artist, the pro. Interact with us. Follow us on social media to tell us how you are using your Steinberg Podcast Pack or place some recommendations for products you would like to see reviewed. Fullcompass.com. Steinberg IXO. Is there an ice machine on this floor?